Fabelmans was directed by Steven Spielberg as well as written by him and Tony Kushner, and it's the story of his life, from youth discovering movies, the love of filmmaking, all the way until getting that first big opportunity. Spoiler alert, I guess, Steven Spielberg became a director. Spielberg's avatar in the film is Sammy Fabelman, a young boy who aspires to become a filmmaker, and as he reaches adolescence, he soon discovers a shattering family secret and explores how the power of films can help him see the truth. Look, if you guys know me at all, you know this film was basically made for me. Spielberg's not only one of my favorite filmmakers, but it's a story about a kid who wants to make movies even though it's really hard and a lot of people around him aren't really letting that happen. And I saw a lot of parallels in my own life and how difficult it was to convince other people that what I wanted to do wasn't just a hobby, that running out into the woods and dressing up as creatures and play fighting with each other on camera wasn't just something that was going to eventually go away. It definitely wasn't a phase. This was here to stay. And every parent has a moment, I think, when their child starts involving themselves in something like that, where at first it seems like, oh, I'm so glad that they found something they love and it's keeping them busy and they're enjoying it and it's making them happy. And then there comes a point where they get a little older, they're older teens, and they're still doing it. And they're getting better at it. Like scarily better at it. And I'm not going to be the only person who watches this movie and sees a reflection of themselves in young Sammy Fabelman. If you have any interest in art, but especially filmmaking in general, you are going to watch the film and understand it. It's going to click with you. There are some very difficult emotional discussions, namely through Judd Hirsch's character, who's mesmerizing in his very few scenes, and could even secure a Best Supporting Actor nomination despite a limited screen time. He looks Sammy Fabelman right in the eye and says, I'm pretty sure this filmmaking thing is more important to you than your family. And even though Sammy denies it, you can see it in his eyes that he's conflicted about that denial. Because that's really how deep the love of filmmaking can go for someone who has dedicated their whole life to it. Because it's not just a normal job. You can't go to school, guaranteed learn how to do something and then start that career right after school. Sure, you can go to film school, but that doesn't mean you're going to get a job in the industry, and it definitely isn't going to be the job you want right off the bat. Or if you're a writer only who doesn't want to work on set and just wants to write screenplays, that creates another magnitude of problems because you have to be better than everyone else, and then you have to have your stuff seen by people who matter, and it's just incredibly difficult. And I'm saying all that to say that when you decide you want to be a filmmaker like young Sammy Fabelman, it becomes your entire focus, and the balance of your life is off now because filmmaking is getting everything and your family and relationships are suffering as a result. And anybody who's ever tried to be a filmmaker can tell you that's true. And that's why I love The Fabelmans. I've seen it twice now, and it's very rare for me to see a film about filmmakers or filmmaking that gets it like this movie does. But it's also a very wise film, and I credit Spielberg and Kushner's screenplay for this. Its characters will often go to Sammy and tell him that he's being very selfish and that the things that he's doing aren't helping anyone around him except for himself. And so it's also reflective of how a filmmaker can disappear within their own brains forever until somebody says, hey man, you're not here with us. The family dynamics in the film are extremely complex, especially Michelle Williams' character, who plays Sammy's mother. She's a shoo-in for an Oscar nomination. She's so fantastic in the film. And this year we've seen Paul Dano as the sadistic serial killer, the Riddler, and now as this loving but stern father in this movie, and he's so lovable and so heartwarming, but you also can see where his brain, which is very methodical and very much so about math and science, doesn't really understand the logic of what his son has decided he wants to do, and that creates a lot of really great scenes. And lastly, Gabriel LaBelle as Sammy Fabelman is wonderful. And his role is difficult because this character could easily come off as very pretentious and up their own ass, and in some ways he's supposed to be, because that's just what you're like when you're 16 years old and you're trying to convince somebody who's not getting paid to give an Oscar-worthy performance in a film that not a lot of people are going to see. And that doesn't matter to you because you just have to create this thing. It has to happen. You've seen it in your head and now it has to get out somehow. And LaBelle is so good at communicating that explosion of emotions rattling around inside this character's head. And I gotta say, the first time I saw the movie, I left thinking, you know, I enjoyed that, but I didn't love it. Things just didn't 100% connect with me emotionally through the first act, and I thought characters did things that felt strange. On the second viewing, knowing what was going on in this family and the issues that they were dealing with ahead of time turned all of those character choices and emotions into something that made sense, and I really loved the film a lot on second viewing. I was able to really sit back and just enjoy the film, because whenever I get really excited about one of my favorite filmmakers who's going to have a new movie, if it's like a Scorsese film or a Tarantino film or whatever, the first viewing, it's always so hard for me to just like chill the fuck out and enjoy it, because I'm so excited to like see everything that they did, all the choices they made. And on the second viewing, I was really able to sit back and just enjoy this movie, and knowing what was going on under the surface as well really helps, and I think the film is great. The film also has two moments that sort of break the fourth wall that I found very funny, and a final scene that is so good my entire theater was roaring with laughter. I think The Fabelmans is a damn good movie and one of Spielberg's better films in the past 10 or so years. So go check it out in the theaters, especially if you want to be a filmmaker or are a filmmaker. You're going to understand this movie, and it's going to really make sense to you, and it's going to feel like you're like really fucking seen. You know what I mean? Like, it's just going to work for you. Guys, thank you so much as always for watching. Look forward to more videos very soon, and if you like this, you can click right here and get Stuckmanized.